Hello, everyone. This is the Reverend speaking, and today I am going to tell you a story that I found recently, and whether it's true or not, I don't know, but the writer says it's true. Let's just get into it. I'm a school teacher from Barry's Bay, Ontario. Thanks to my summers off, I spent almost half of each August going on canoe trips in Algonquin Province Park nearby. Most of the park isn't wilderness by any means, as there are many logging roads. There are, however, many areas of the park that are protected and have no logging or infrastructure, and these are the areas I like most. Some of these areas are huge, bigger than most other provincial parks. This August I went on a solo trip to Lake Lavelle to catch some trout. It wasn't exactly the season for them, as most lake trout stay very deep during the summer, but I was going to have a busy fall and figured why not attempt some deep water jigging. The trip began through the access point on Lake Ogopogo, a large lake with branching arms that act as a popular canoe highway for backcountry access. Over the course of a few days, I made my way from Okopongo to Dixon Lake across one of the longest portages in the park and up to Lake Lavelle. The lake was beautiful when you first cross from Dixon to Lavelle. You entered a bay. As you continued on your way, it opens up to the massive lake that felt like a small sea to a guy like me who's never seen the ocean. Since this lake is deep into the back country, you normally don't see many other campers. However, one of the other canoe trippers there happened to take my favorite site on the islands. Because of that, I decided to try something new and camped on the lake's northernmost site. I set up a camp and went fishing. It was extremely windy, so it was difficult to control my canoe. This is less of an issue when I have the weight of all my gear in the boat, but I had already set up camp, so I decided to call it a day early and went back to shore before the winds blew me to the other side of the lake. Then I had an idea. I was relatively close to a much smaller lake to the north of my site, connected by a very short nearby portage. I grabbed my rod and a few spinners and decided to head over there to see if I could catch some small perch or panfish from the shore. I was getting there kind of late, so I wouldn't be there long. I made my way up to the portage only to find it connected to a very small marshy area. I went back and around the marsh, way up the portage, which took longer than expected. I also started casting from the shore. The sun was setting, not wanting to head back because of how long it took me to get there. It was getting a little nippy out, so I buttoned up my flannel. The lake was beautiful with the cold wind. That moment of beauty quickly interrupted by the sound of crunching to my right. The only animals that make sounds like that as they move are bears and moose. Both are creatures that you do not want to bother. The issue was this animal was in between me and the rest of the shoreline that wouldn't have guided me back to the marsh, and thus the portage. So I couldn't get to my campsite. I decided I would cut across the dense forest to the shore of Lake Lavelle and my campsite. I was glad I decided to bring my flashlight because at this point it was very dark. I made my way into the forest, and about 15 seconds later I heard the animal again. I stopped moving and heard it continue for a second before pausing itself. When I continued, it did so as well. When I stopped, it stopped. At this point, I was absolutely terrified. I was shining my flashlight behind me, but couldn't see any reflecting eyes shining back at me. I swear I was standing there with my flashlight for 2 minutes. I started speed walking, shining my flashlight back periodically in a slight panic. I didn't want to be eaten by what I thought was a mountain lion or a bear. I finally tried scaring whatever it was off by yelling. I turned around and yelled, "Hey, back off!" as if I was calling out to someone. My entire world shattered when whatever it was shouted, "Hey, back off!" back at me in my exact voice. This is going to sound absolutely crazy, but then I saw a bald white head with no ears and huge eyes look out from behind a tree, and I absolutely bolted through the woods away from it until I reached water. From there, I ran to my left alongside the shore until reaching my campsite. I had never ran so fast in my life. I threw literally everything in my canoe as fast as possible, picked up my tent with my sleeping bag and everything in it, and just threw it in the canoe. I grabbed my backpack and my water filter as well and threw them in. I got in and paddled as fast as I could to just leave. I found myself sitting in my canoe in pitch black, knowing that I had no idea where on the lake I was now. Most of my thinking was about what had just happened. I did not sleep that night. I just waited in my canoe till morning. I had the balls to head back to my campsite and quickly grab my bear hang before canoeing to the other side of the lake, where I properly folded and put away my gear. I'm never camping on Lake Lavelle again.